So I work with women with Hashimoto's, help them really reclaim their health, start feeling better, get back to lives that they remember feeling really good in. And I hear a lot of stories from people who've really been through the ringer in the medical system. They start feeling bad and they go in to see a doctor and they're hoping for help. And I hear some of the craziest stories, and I just had one this week of a new patient came in to see me, been recently diagnosed with Hashimoto's. She's early 30s, young, should be vibrant, out there feeling great. But she's like, I get home from work and all I can do is just crouch on the couch. I'm worthless, is what she said. And she gained a whole bunch of weight, like 60 pounds over the last 3 years. And she was really upset and just didn't feel great. And she's telling me this story about how she got to me. So, 3 years ago, when things started to really get bad, she went to her gynecologist, which is really common. Lots of women start there. It makes sense. They're kind of the gatekeeper for a lot of us for our health. And so every 6 months or so, for a couple of years, this gynecologist ran a TSH marker and it came back normal. And so she's like, yeah, you don't have any thyroid problems. So this went on for a while, and this woman kept getting worse and worse and worse. So finally, the gynecologist like, well, let's just send you to an endocrinologist. So she goes to the endocrinologist, and he starts working with her, running a few things, checking on a few things. Nothing really is happening. 10 months later, he decides to check her for Hashimoto's, and she has Hashimoto's. And not only that, he did an ultrasound of her thyroid. So imaging can also tell you sometimes if you've got Hashimoto's. And he came back to her with the imaging and said, it looks like you've got about 15 years of destruction that has happened with your thyroid. And this is 3 years later after she'd started trying to get some help. The things that just kind of blew my mind about this were, first of all, that her original doctor didn't run a bigger thyroid panel, because you can have a normal TSH, but other markers within the whole thyroid system, they can be off, right? And you can have antibody markers for Hashimoto's. There are two of them, and they can be off even before you start showing hypothyroidism with your TSH being off. And so there was an opportunity years ago for someone to do a good, thorough lab marker that would have found this years ago. Then going to the endocrinologist, who should be an expert in Hashimoto's, for him to take 10 months to bother to run the markers to find out that she has Hashimoto's, that's to me inexcusable. And what she didn't know, and I didn't tell her, I didn't want to make her feel bad, because I know that Hashimoto's is so common, especially in women. I run the two markers on every new patient every time from the beginning. And I'm able to catch a lot of people, sometimes early, because of it. One of the problems in our system is that doctors do not run a full thyroid panel. Another problem is that even if they run more markers than just a TSH, they don't run the antibodies for Hashimoto's. And if they do, they usually only run one, not both of them. And so some people get missed. What you need to know is that Hashimoto's in our country, in America, Hashimoto's is the number one cause of hypothyroidism. And you can have Hashimoto's even before you begin to have hypothyroidism. So it's important to check. Now, the next thing you need to know is what he offered her once they discovered she had Hashimoto's is a Synthroid prescription. And the moment she started taking it, her pain got worse. So her symptoms, I told you, weight gain, fatigue, pain, joint pain. That's a common thing I hear. It's maybe the fourth most common complaint I hear from women is they're having pain, muscle pain or joint pain. And she was having that. But the moment she started taking the Synthroid, it got a lot worse. What I want you to know is that Synthroid just replaces the hormone that your thyroid's supposed to make if it's not doing a good job of that. But it does not address the whole complications that come with Hashimoto's. Hashimoto's affects every system, every organ, every gland, every cell in your body, because every cell has a thyroid hormone receptor. So if your hormones aren't working right from your thyroid, you've got problems. And Hashimoto's is really an autoimmune condition. It's an immune system thing and not a thyroid thing. And so the thyroid being off is one problem, but the immune system being off also affects things. So this is a way bigger problem than, hey, your thyroid's a little low. Let's just give you some Synthroid or levothyroxine and we'll call it good. Many people that I've gotten to work with, they've been on prescriptions for years and they don't feel any better. The thing I want you to know is that if you're working with your doctors, you've got to ask for these tests. Most doctors aren't going to run them. They just don't. You've got to ask for the markers. You've got to advocate for yourself. Doctors are not going to run these mostly. And then the second thing you got to know is a prescription alone is not enough. You may or may not need a prescription, but even if you do, that alone is never enough to handle the complexity of the autoimmune condition the Hashimoto's is. So if you want some help with us, I would love to have you reach out. We're happy to help. So let us know.